Well, thank you, Chairman Diaz-Balart and Ranking Member Frankel, for this hearing today. President Trump and Secretary Rubio have ushered in a new golden era of America First foreign policy. They've moved away from the old State Department mindset, one that too often focused on so-called global interests rather than American interests. American taxpayers should not send one single dollar to a program that does not support our clearly defined national interests. That's why I again thank you, Chairman, for your excellent work on the subcommittee and for working with the President and the Secretary to advance America First foreign policy. For context, the National Endowment of Democracy was created in Congress in 1983 as an independent nonprofit grant-making institution intended to strengthen democratic institutions abroad. Its core mission has long been to support growth of democratic institutions, civil society, free markets, and the rule of law around the world. I believe that overall, NED supports this vision. Its work in Venezuela, Iran, China, and Russia have been critical to supporting American interests against these hostile nations. However, NED has not been perfect by any means. In fact, NED's funding of the Global Disinformation Index, roughly $100,000, represents a serious lapse in judgment that demands accountability, and I think an apology here today, sir. The Global Disinformation Index did not simply study disinformation. It created tools that were used to blacklist and financially pressure media outlets. These tools were pointed directly at the American right and were a key component of the left's struggle to crush new media like the Daily Wire, Breitbart, and Joe Rogan. At best, this episode reflects a troubling failure of oversight. At worst, it suggests taxpayer dollars indirectly supported efforts that undermine core American free speech principles. The funding of such an organization is doubly concerning, given that NED's mandate explicitly forbids any programming within the United States. And that's why, sir, the vote on the House floor to defund NED was so difficult for some of us. I knew when I got on this committee that I was going to have to take tough votes. This was a tough vote for many of us. In fact, 127 of my Republican colleagues voted to defund NED. We have had to answer a lot of questions, and rightfully so, from our constituents of why we voted against this amendment and let the funding go forward for NED. I choose not to throw the baby out with the bathwater because I believe in the core mission of NED, but it's gotten off the rails. The American people deserve, my constituents deserve to know, and I think you've done some explaining here today. Again, I think you owe an apology to the American people. The Global Disinformation Index, in its name itself, is a 1984 George Orwell title for a follow-up to 1984. It's not an excuse in my book to say, hey, we caught it after the fact. What do you have to say to the American people about this?
We take this issue extremely seriously. As I said, we would never support censorship of Americans, suppressing any type of media in the United States. We do not fund anything related to U.S. democracy.
But the people you give money to did do that.
When we learned that this partner had undertaken that work, it is anathema to how we approach our work. It is inconsistent with our mandate. Providing 1,500 grants in over 90 countries around the world, often in modest increments, that's a lot of grants that we manage. If there is something that we determine is wrong, is a mistake,
why did you catch it going before you gave the money to the Global Disinformation Index? How did you not know what they were doing?
When we supported that first originally, they had no work related to the United States. And what we were supporting was work taking place in countries around the world that were struggling with threats to their media environments. We helped them support the analysis of how the CCP was beginning to influence narratives, propagandas within societies in Africa and Latin America. We see this as a serious issue. We know that Russia and China have used and weaponized propaganda and information to try to shape narratives. This work, what we were funding had nothing to do with the United States. At the time, at the beginning of their relationship, they were not involved in the United States.
All right. Sir, we are out of time. Will you apologize to the American people for wasting their money on a program that went after right, truth-telling media in America?
We took immediate action.
Will
to
you
rectify-
apologize, sir?
We regret that we made this decision, and we actually have rectified it and held ourselves accountable, came up to respond to Congress and address it.
Well, if I gave that type of apology to my wife, I'd be out of the house. I yield back.